The Boston suburbs in autumn were welcoming the season of beautiful fall foliage. At the pediatric ward of St. Mary's General Hospital, Rachel Harrison was experiencing her first day as the newly appointed head nurse. Her face bore the kindness and sense of responsibility that years of nursing experience had cultivated. When she walked through the ward dressed in her white uniform, her colleagues naturally looked at her with respect. "Congratulations on your promotion, Head Nurse Harrison," called out Sarah, a young nurse. "We'll do our best too." Rachel smiled as she replied, "Thank you. Let's work together to provide the best care for the children." Her cell phone vibrated. It was a message from her son Ethan. "Good job today, Mom. I'll make dinner." 17-year-old Ethan was an excellent high school student who cared deeply for his mother. He had already been accepted to the State University's medical school on a full scholarship starting next spring. Rachel knew better than anyone the effort he had put in to earn that scholarship. Every time she saw her son at his desk studying late into the night, her heart filled with pride and gratitude. When she arrived home, the aroma of pasta drifted from the kitchen. Ethan was making his mother's favorite tomato cream pasta. "How was your day?" Ethan asked, turning around. His face had the refined features he inherited from his father, but his gentle eyes were completely like Rachel's. "Pretty good for a first day. Having you here gave me strength," Rachel said, placing her hand on her son's shoulder. "How are your medical school preparations going?" "Going well. But I still don't have confidence that I can help people like you do, Mom." As mother and son sat around the dining table for dinner, the landline rang. When Rachel answered, she heard a familiar voice. "It's me, Monica." She hadn't been in much contact with her sister Monica for the past few months. Monica was raising her 10-year-old daughter Emma as a single mother while working part-time at the local supermarket. "Monica, what's wrong? Are you okay?" Rachel's voice was filled with genuine concern. "I'm doing all right, I guess. I need to talk to you about Emma. Could we meet sometime?" The relationship between Rachel and Monica was complicated. Since childhood, their parents had unconsciously treated Rachel as the honor student sister and Monica as the free-spirited sister. Their father George and mother Linda never meant any harm. However, everyone in the family had noticed the difference between their joy when Rachel graduated from nursing school and got a stable job, and their worried expressions when Monica was unsure about her path after high school graduation. "Of course. How is Emma doing?" "Well, she's having some trouble at school. She has difficulty reading, and her teacher said she might have a learning disability. Dyslexia, a reading disorder." Rachel had knowledge about this learning disability from her experience in pediatrics. She also knew that with proper support, children could fully demonstrate their abilities. "It's okay, Monica. Why don't you come over this weekend? Bring Emma with you." After hanging up, Ethan looked at his mother's expression and asked, "Aunt Monica?" "Yes. She seems to need advice about Emma." Ethan smiled gently. "If there's anything I can do to help, just let me know. Emma's such a sweet kid." Rachel was warmed by her son's words. On Saturday afternoon of the weekend, Rachel was awakened by the sound of the doorbell. After getting up from a short nap following her day shift, she found Ethan already heading to the door. "It's Aunt Monica and Emma," Ethan's voice echoed down the hallway. Monica, who appeared at the entrance, looked more worn out than Rachel remembered. Her shoulder-length brown hair was slightly disheveled, and there were faint dark circles under her eyes. Meanwhile, Emma, though staying small behind her mother, looked around Rachel's house with curious eyes. "Congratulations on your promotion to head nurse," Monica's voice carried congratulations, but there was a somewhat tired tone to it. "Thank you. Come on in. Emma, it's been a while." Emma shyly smiled and gave Rachel a small wave. She had large eyes like her mother's, but shadows of anxiety could be seen flickering in them. In the living room, Monica sighed deeply. "Actually, it's about Emma's school situation. About the dyslexia." "What's the situation?" "The teacher says Emma takes longer to read words than other children. She's good at math, but but she can't keep up in language arts class. Monica's voice gradually became smaller. I don't know what to do. Emma was curled up on her mother's lap. Rachel smiled gently at her. Emma, would you like to play with Ethan today? He's very kind. Ethan knelt down to Emma's eye level. Emma, I have an interesting puzzle in my room. Want to try it together? Emma's face brightened immediately. Really? As the two went upstairs, Monica showed a relieved expression. Ethan is really kind. Emma is usually shy around people. That boy is kind to everyone. Now, tell me more about Emma. For the next hour, the sisters had a heart-to-heart talk for the first time in a while. Monica explained Emma's learning difficulties, sometimes with tears in her eyes. Rachel listened to her sister's story and gave advice incorporating her professional knowledge. Dyslexia is definitely not a matter of intelligence. With proper support, Emma can learn just fine. Really? Hope lit up in Monica's eyes. Yes. There's a learning support specialist at my hospital. I'll write you a referral letter. From that day on, a special relationship began between Rachel and Emma. Every weekend, Monica brought Emma to Rachel's house. Rachel used her experience as a nurse to find methods suited to Emma's learning style. Emma, let's try using these word cards. They're color-coded, so they should be easier to remember. Though Emma was initially confused, under Rachel's patient guidance, she gradually developed her reading skills. Ethan also actively helped, treating his younger cousin with brotherly kindness. Emma, you're amazing. You can read this word perfectly now. Ethan's encouragement made Emma's face shine with joy. However, as the weeks passed, subtle changes began to appear in Monica's attitude. She, who had initially been full of gratitude, gradually became unfriendly. Sorry for being a bother again today. Monica's words no longer carried the heartfelt gratitude they once had. It's no bother at all. I enjoy spending time with Emma, Rachel replied brightly, though she was confused. One day, while Emma was working on homework, Monica suddenly spoke up. You have it good, don't you? Everything goes well for you. What? Your job is going smoothly, your son is excellent. Me, I can't even raise one daughter properly. Rachel was surprised by her sister's words. Monica, that's not true. You're raising Emma wonderfully on your own. Wonderfully? A child with a learning disability? Monica's voice was self-deprecating. The other mothers say things like, poor Monica, things don't go as well for her as they do for Rachel. The moment she heard those words, Rachel felt something ache deep in her chest. She realized she hadn't fully understood the complex emotions her sister was carrying. But you're always perfect, Monica said with a sardonic smile. Head nurse promotion, Ethan going to medical school. Everything's wonderful. That day, after Monica and Emma went home, Rachel sat alone in the living room, lost in thought. Ethan approached with concern. Mom, are you okay? Aunt Monica seemed strange today. I'm fine. She's probably just tired. However, Rachel's heart was heavy. She could sense the pain behind her sister's words. Since childhood, she had often been praised by their parents. She had good grades, became a nurse with a stable job, and raised an excellent son. Meanwhile, Monica had been uncertain about her path since high school, became pregnant young, and was now struggling as a single mother. The following week, Monica's phone call was more distant than before. I can't make it this weekend. Could we pause Emma's learning support for a while? Of course. But if you run into any problems, please call me anytime. Thank you. But it's enough now. Emma is getting used to school too. After hanging up, Rachel felt anxious. Monica's voice clearly showed an intention to distance herself. However, her anxiety proved justified. On Thursday evening of the following week, when Rachel returned home from the hospital, her cell phone rang. It was a call from Monica. But something was different than usual. Her voice was urgent, and some kind of commotion could be heard in the background. Rachel? It's me. Something urgent came up. Very urgent. Monica? What's wrong? Are you okay? Can you take Emma? Right now. Rachel looked at the clock. It was 6:30 p.m. Of course. But what happened? I'll explain later. Can you take Emma right now? For about 3 days. 3 days? Monica, what on earth? Please. Monica's voice was almost a scream. I'll bring Emma over in 30 minutes. The phone was hung up abruptly. Rachel stood there holding the receiver. The urgency and desperation in her sister's voice planted seeds of anxiety in her heart. Ethan came down the stairs. What's wrong, Mom? I'm going to take care of Emma for 3 days. Are you okay? Did something happen to Aunt Monica? Rachel shook her head. I don't know. But she must be in a difficult situation. 30 minutes later, Monica arrived with Emma as promised. However, her appearance at that time was more distraught than Rachel had ever seen. Emma was dragging a small suitcase, looking up at her mother anxiously. Please take care of her for 3 days, Monica's words were businesslike, with all previous friendliness completely gone. Monica, at least tell me what happened. I'll explain later. Please, just take care of her. Monica got in her car without looking back and left immediately. Rachel and Ethan stared at little Emma in bewilderment. Emma's eyes were filled with tears. Will Mommy really come back to get me? Rachel hugged Emma. Of course, Emma. Mommy will definitely come back for you. On the first night of taking care of Emma, Emma spent time doing puzzles with Ethan, though she seemed anxious. Emma, did Mommy tell you anything? Do you know where she went? Rachel asked gently. Mommy said she had a job interview. A very important interview, so it might take about 3 days, Emma answered in a small voice. But she didn't tell me the details. That night, Emma slept in Rachel's bed with her. Looking at her niece's sleeping face as she curled up her small body, Rachel's worries about her sister grew. The next day, Friday, Rachel called Monica's cell phone many times from the hospital, but still couldn't reach her. She had Emma stay home from school and asked Ethan to watch her. Emma is really a good kid, Ethan said while helping prepare dinner. But sometimes she looks really anxious. Yes. She misses her mommy. By Saturday, there was still no contact from Monica. Rachel tried calling their parents, but George and Linda didn't know Monica's whereabouts either. If you hear from Monica, please let me know right away, Rachel asked her mother. I understand. But that child has always been like this. She acts on sudden impulses, Linda's voice had a resigned tone. On Sunday afternoon, Emma was reading a picture book on Rachel's sofa. Reading words was still difficult for her, but she had improved much more than before. Aunt Rachel, I don't understand this word, Emma pointed. That means family. 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 After Emma repeated it several times, she suddenly showed a lonely expression. My family is just Mommy. Your family is you and Ethan, right? Rachel sat next to Emma and gently hugged her. Emma, you're part of our precious family too. At that moment, the doorbell rang. Thinking Monica had returned, Emma stood up happily. However, when Rachel opened the door, she saw 2 police officers in uniform. Are you Rachel Harrison? The older male officer asked. Yes, that's me, but... Are you caring for a 10-year-old child named Emma Chambers? Yes. She's my niece. My sister had an emergency and... We received a report from Monica Chambers. We'd like to speak with you about suspected kidnapping of a minor. Rachel was speechless. What? What are you talking about? At that moment, Emma peeked her face from the top of the stairs. Who is it? One of the officers gently called out to Emma. You're Emma, aren't you? Your mother is worried about you, so we'd like you to come with us. Mommy? Where is Mommy? Emma's voice was confused. 10 minutes later, Rachel was in an interrogation room at the police station. In the next room, Emma was talking with a female officer. And finally, Monica appeared. Her sister's face, seen for the first time in 3 days, was as cold as a stranger Rachel didn't know. She was wearing a new suit and her hair was neatly styled. Rachel, Monica's voice held no emotion. Monica, what on earth is happening? You're the one who asked me to take care of Emma, aren't you? I never said such a thing, Monica spoke to the police officer. My sister took Emma without permission. I didn't authorize it. Rachel was stunned. What are you saying? You called me and asked. Do you have proof? The officer asked. There's a phone record. But. Rachel was confused. Monica took out some documents. I'm demanding payment of $80,000 as compensation for kidnapping a minor. $80,000? Rachel couldn't believe it. Monica, are you serious? She took care of Emma without my permission. She held Emma hostage to cause me trouble. Monica's words were cruel. At that moment, Emma's voice could be heard from the next room. Could you get my tablet, please? There's something important on it. The female officer took the tablet from Emma's suitcase. Emma began operating the screen with practiced hands. I keep an audio diary every day. Since I'm not good at writing, I record with my voice, Emma explained. That's wonderful, the female officer replied kindly. This is Thursday's diary. The day before I came to Aunt Rachel's house. Emma operated the tablet screen, and her own voice played back. Today, Mommy said I'm going to stay at Aunt Rachel's house for 3 days. Yay! I love Aunt Rachel. I can play with Ethan too. The air in the interrogation room froze. However, the recording continued. Monica's voice could be clearly heard in the background. Emma, you're staying at Aunt Rachel's house for 3 days. Mommy has an important interview. Really? Yay! Emma's delighted voice. And then Monica's small murmur was recorded. I don't like it though. I have no choice because of the job interview. The officers looked back and forth between Rachel and Monica. Monica's face had turned pale. However, Emma's audio diary continued further. Mommy is making a phone call. She's saying Rachel. That's Aunt Rachel. And then part of Monica's phone conversation was recorded. Rachel? Something urgent came up. Can you take Emma? For about 3 days. Rachel sighed with relief, but the recording wasn't over yet. Emma's voice could be heard murmuring to herself. Mommy has been talking to herself a lot lately. She says she doesn't like that Rachel gets praised all the time. That Ethan is excellent and I'm a poor student. But Aunt Rachel says I'm smart. And then even more shocking recording played. It was Monica's voice talking to someone on the phone. Yes, everything's going according to plan. I'll leave the child with my sister, then report it as kidnapping 3 days later. If I can get $80,000, I won't have to worry about living expenses for a while. The interrogation room was enveloped in complete silence. Monica covered her face with her hands. The officer looked at Monica with a stern expression. This constitutes false reporting. Moreover, it's attempted extortion with premeditation. Monica's voice was trembling. At that moment, Emma rushed into the interrogation room. Mommy. Emma hugged Monica but immediately looked back at Rachel. Aunt Rachel, did Mommy lie? Emma's eyes were filled with tears. I really enjoyed being at your house. Why did she have to lie? Rachel hugged Emma. It's okay, Emma. It's okay. Monica finally broke down crying. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I was at my limit. You're always the one who gets praised, and I'm no good at anything. Monica. I needed money. Emma's learning support costs money too, and my part-time job doesn't cover it at all. Monica looked up. But asking you directly was humiliating, and my pride wouldn't allow it. The officer stood up. For now, we'll prepare documents for false reporting and attempted extortion. However, since this is also a family matter, we'll consider the victim's intentions. Rachel looked at Monica. Her sister's eyes held deep despair and regret. Emma looked up at the two adults with a confused expression. "Aunt Rachel, aren't we family anymore?" Emma's small voice echoed in the silence. Those words deeply shook Rachel's heart. What is family? What does forgiveness mean? And what is truly important? She pondered deeply. Monica sat in the chair, covering her face with both hands and crying. Rachel held Emma while looking at her sister with complex feelings. One of the officers spoke up. "Monica Chambers, false reporting is a serious crime. Also, there's evidence of attempted extortion in the audio recording." "I understand." Monica looked up. Her eyes were swollen red, and her makeup was completely gone. "It's all my fault." Emma looked at her mother's condition and anxiously looked up at Rachel. "Aunt Rachel, what's going to happen to Mommy?" Rachel gently stroked Emma's head. "It's okay, Emma. We'll all talk it through." At that moment, the interrogation room door opened, and George and Linda entered looking panicked. Rachel had contacted their parents. "What on earth is happening?" Linda asked in a trembling voice. When the officer explained the situation, George and Linda were speechless. Linda especially stared at Monica while crying. "Monica, why would you do such a thing?" Linda's voice was shaking. Monica looked up at her mother. "Mom, I've been suffering for so long. Rachel always gets praised, and I'm always treated like the problem child." "We never meant it that way," Linda said hastily. "But that was the reality." Monica's voice was quiet but filled with deep pain. "I remember how happy Dad and Mom were when Rachel became a nurse. I also remember your disappointed faces when I couldn't decide on a path after high school graduation." George opened his mouth heavily. "Monica, even when Emma was diagnosed with a learning disability, the first thing I was told was, 'Why don't you consult with Rachel?'" Monica continued. "Even though I'm the mother, I'm always told to rely on my sister." Emma said in a small voice, "Mommy, but Aunt Rachel was kind. She said I was smart." Monica looked at Emma. "You're right, Emma. Rachel is truly a kind person." Rachel finally spoke up. "Monica, I didn't know. I had no idea you felt that way." "Of course you didn't know. You're always perfect." Monica gave a bitter smile. "But I also know it's not your fault. I was just harboring feelings of inferiority on my own." The officer intervened. "You can discuss family matters later, but we need to decide on legal processing." Linda stepped forward. "Please, could you forgive Monica? We parents also bear responsibility." "But false reporting and attempted extortion." Rachel stood up. "I won't press charges. Monica is my precious sister. She certainly did something wrong, but we'll resolve this as a family." Monica looked at Rachel with a surprised expression. "However, there are conditions," Rachel continued. "Monica, you must receive psychological counseling. And I'll take responsibility for continuing Emma's learning support." "I'm grateful, but the money." "Don't worry about money. We're family." Emma suddenly spoke up. "I remember something about when I was recording. I might know who Mommy was talking to on the phone." Everyone focused on Emma. "Mommy, the person you were talking to on the phone, was it Aunt Jennifer?" Monica's face went pale. Jennifer was her friend who had previously been involved in fraudulent money-making schemes. "Emma, you said, according to plan, right? Did Aunt Jennifer teach you that?" The officer leaned forward. "We'll need to investigate this friend as well." Monica began talking as if resigned. "Jennifer said that if you disguise it as family trouble, you can easily get money. She said if you make it look like a sisterly fight and report it as kidnapping, the other party would give in." "Unbelievable," George muttered. "But when I actually left Emma with you and saw how kind you and Ethan were to her." Monica's voice choked up. I really felt sorry. But I couldn't turn back anymore. Emma held Monica's hand. Mommy, I was happy at Aunt Rachel's house. But I was lonely without you. Monica hugged her daughter. I'm sorry, Emma. Mommy was wrong. The officer said while organizing papers, since the victim won't press charges this time, we'll issue a stern warning. However, we'll investigate this woman Jennifer separately. Thank you, Rachel bowed her head. At that moment, the interrogation room door opened again, and Ethan entered with a worried face. Mom, are you okay? What about Emma? Emma saw Ethan and ran to him. Ethan. Ethan picked up Emma. Thank goodness you're safe. I was worried. Seeing that scene, new tears welled up in Monica's eyes. Really such a warm family. Linda put her hand on Monica's shoulder. Monica, we have many things to reflect on too. We're truly sorry for making you suffer. George also approached. Me too. I praised Rachel too much and didn't see your efforts. Dad, Mom. It will be different from now on, George said firmly. Of course, we'll all cooperate as a family for Emma's learning support. We'll also help with your job situation, Monica. The officer asked for final signatures on the documents. This concludes today's matter. However, Monica, you must pledge never to do anything like this again. Yes, Monica bowed deeply. I'm truly sorry. When they left the police station, the sunset was beautifully coloring the sky. Emma stood between Rachel and Ethan, holding both their hands. Aunt Rachel, can we still be family from now on? Emma asked. Rachel smiled. Of course, Emma. We'll always be family. Monica called out from behind. Thank you so much. I'll properly receive psychological counseling. Monica, we're sisters. From now on, please talk to me about anything. George and Linda also got out of their car, and the whole family gathered together. Let's all have dinner at Rachel's house tonight, Linda suggested. The whole family together for the first time in a while. Emma clapped her hands happily. Really? Everyone together? Yes, everyone together, Rachel answered. Ethan said happily, I'll make Emma's favorite pasta. Yay! Emma's smile seemed to shine in the sunset. Monica watched the scene from a little distance away. The guilt still weighed heavily on her heart, but at the same time, she felt hope. The family bond had been damaged once, but she realized it was still reparable. Rachel extended her hand to Monica. Let's go home together. Monica took that hand while crying. Thank you, Rachel. 1 year later, the gymnasium of St. Mary's Elementary School was filled with warm applause. It was the day of the learning presentation. On stage, Emma was reciting a poem with a confident voice. Family isn't just about blood ties. It's about people who support each other and believe in each other. In the front row of the audience sat Rachel, Ethan, Monica, George, and Linda. Everyone's eyes were filled with tears. In the years since that incident, the family had faced their respective challenges. Monica continued receiving psychological counseling as promised, confronting her feelings of inferiority and jealousy head-on. She also began attending a nursing assistant certification course through Rachel's introduction. I was embarrassed at first, Monica reflected later. Going back to being a student at 35. But seeing Emma working hard made me think I had to work hard too. Meanwhile, Rachel had also examined herself. She deeply reflected on not noticing her sister's suffering and changed how she related to her family. She continued Emma's weekend learning support, and Ethan began participating actively as well. Emma has become a special person to me. Ethan, now a first-year medical student, still helped with Emma's studies every weekend. By teaching, I'm learning a lot too. Their parents, George and Linda, had changed the most during this year. They reflected on their past child-rearing and deeply regretted unknowingly comparing their daughters and hurting Monica. Just because Rachel was excellent, we overlooked Monica's efforts, Linda apologized tearfully. But this year we learned how hardworking Monica really is. George also actively supported Monica's job search and began regularly participating in Emma's learning support. My granddaughter taught me the true meaning of family. Emma herself had grown significantly. She learned how to cope with dyslexia and developed her own unique learning method using audio recording. Her grades steadily improved, and most importantly, she regained her confidence. When the presentation ended, Emma ran to her family. "Everyone, thank you for listening." Rachel hugged Emma. "You were wonderful, Emma. Really excellent." Monica stroked her daughter's head and said, "Mommy is proud too. Emma is really a hard worker." That night, the whole family gathered at Rachel's house. As Emma was happily talking about that day's presentation in the living room, Monica approached Rachel. "Thank you so much for not abandoning me that time." "I never even thought of abandoning you," Rachel smiled. "We're family. But after I did such terrible things, that's in the past. What matters is now and the future, right?" Monica had passed the nursing assistant certification exam and was set to start working in the pediatric ward at St. Mary's Hospital next month. The sisters were both delighted to be able to work at the same workplace. "We'll be colleagues," Rachel said. "Please take care of me as your senior." Monica bowed deeply. Every time Ethan came home from university, he treasured his time with Emma. Their relationship had become as close as real siblings. "Ethan, tell me about university next time," Emma pleaded. "Of course. Emma, do you want to go to university in the future too?" "Yes. I want to have a job helping people like Aunt Rachel and you." George and Linda had come to love both granddaughters equally. They didn't miss not only Emma's learning presentations but also her small growth, always praising her. "Emma's drawings have really improved," Linda said while looking at Emma's family drawing. The drawing showed 7 people: Rachel, Ethan, Monica, Emma, George, Linda, and in the center was a large heart with the word family written inside. "This is our real family," Emma explained proudly. That night, after the family went home, Rachel sat alone in the living room thinking. The painful incident from a year ago had ultimately deepened the family's bonds. People aren't perfect. They make mistakes. However, what's important is forgiving each other and supporting each other. A message arrived on her cell phone. It was from Monica. "Rachel, thank you. I think our family became a real family in the true sense from that day. Both Emma and I are happy to have you." Rachel smiled as she replied. "We're happy to have you and Emma too. Let's continue supporting each other forever." Outside the window, the spring night breeze was scattering cherry blossoms. Along with the beginning of a new season, a new chapter for the Harrison Chambers family was also beginning. They learned that true family means not just blood ties, but accepting each other's weaknesses, overcoming difficulties together, and supporting each other unconditionally.